It's His harvest, but there's work for you. Hello, friends. Welcome to Family Faith Time. A question for you. What would you do if you see that people you love are in trouble? Your family or your friends or maybe students in your class. Would you go to help? Maybe would you contact others to help too? When Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, realized that Putin was planning a full scale attack on his country, what did he do? He didn't just give up or abandon his people, but he got his military ready, he got the people ready, and he also worked on getting the support of other countries. More than a year has passed since the Russian attack. Many Ukrainian cities have been completely destroyed. Thousands have lost their lives, have had to flee their homes. It must have been very tough to keep going, but Zelensky continues to encourage his people to plead for help and support from world leaders. And the whole world is amazed at the courage and resilience of the Ukrainians. They continue to fight and to work and to hope. Today we're going to look at another leader who sees the trouble his people are in and he goes to their help. But he does more. Let's see what he does. As we read the gospel, try and pay attention to what we're reading because there'll be some questions after that. A reading from the Gospel of St. Matthew. Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Then he summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out and to cure every disease and every sickness. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Do not take a road leading to Gentiles, and do not enter a Samaritan town, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment, give without payment. The word of the Lord. So let's see if Jesus acted like Zelensky and in what way. And let's see how well you remember the gospel. Your first question is, did Jesus have compassion on the people? And why, according to St. Matthew? According to the gospel, why did he have compassion on the people? Because they were like sheep without a shepherd. Jesus realized that they needed help, not just for their bodies, but for their spirits also. Second question, what did Jesus do as he went about the cities and villages? Did he go sightseeing? What did he do? He taught them. He proclaimed the good news that the kingdom of heaven had come, and he healed every disease. So Jesus himself reached out to help his suffering people, but he also did something more. He said, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few." And then he asked his followers to do something. What did he ask them to do? Choose the right answer. Go and start working in the fields, pray for laborers, or recruit laborers? Jesus asked them to pray for laborers. He said, "Ask the Lord of the harvest, that is God, to send out laborers into his harvest." This also reminds us that it is his harvest and he is the Lord of the harvest. We are only laborers. Good to remember. After that, Jesus got some more help. So, besides asking them to pray, he called his 12 apostles. And what did he ask them to do? Quite a few things. Can you remember any of them? He said, raise the dead, proclaim the good news, heal the sick, cast out demons, cleanse lepers. In fact, all the things that he himself was doing. And he gave them the authority, the power to do what he asked. Now, where did Jesus tell them to go? Choose the right answer. To the people of Israel, to the whole world, or to the Gentiles? Let's see if you are paying attention. To the people of Israel. In fact, he said, don't go to the Gentiles. But then this is a bit confusing because later Jesus told them before he ascended, he said, go into the whole world. So we can see that when the Lord of the harvest sends us out, he has a specific instruction for us at a specific time. So he doesn't just say, go and do whatever you can. He has a plan and we need to hear it before we jump into action. And how will we get to know his plan? By listening, by praying. Now, Jesus gave the disciples one more instruction, something about payment. When you hire laborers, you have to pay them, right? What did Jesus say? You received without payment, give without payment. What does he mean? He says, you just do your work for me. While you're on this earth, don't expect any rewards, praise, thanks, even good feelings. You may just feel tired, but just keep doing it out of love. So now we can see God's plan of action. What was Jesus' plan? To pass on his work to his followers. And what does he want his followers to do? To pray, to work, or to pray and work? I think most of you must have chosen pray and work. It's true that sometimes some people have to do more praying, okay? Like my old auntie who's in the bed most of the time and she's blind, she does praying. And some people do more active work. But we all have to do both in some way or the other. We can even do it by just talking to people, encouraging them, being kind to the maid. So let's look at two of Jesus's followers who both heard the call to serve Jesus and to gather the harvest. Both are considered patrons of the missionaries, and both had the same burning desire to bring people to Jesus. But each was called to serve in a different way. The one was Saint Therese. This is a photo of her as a little girl and when she was grown up. And I'm sharing with you a small prayer of hers. She's telling the Lord, in spite of my littleness, even though I'm a kacha roti, I would like to enlighten souls as the prophets and the doctors did. I have the vocation of the apostles. I would like to travel over the whole earth and to preach your name. But one mission alone would not be sufficient for me. I would want to preach the gospel on all the 5 continents simultaneously, and even to the most remote isles. I want to be a missionary, not for a few years only, but from the beginning of creation until the end of ages. Huge desire. Her wish almost came true to become a missionary because her own convent in France was hoping to send some sisters to Saigon, and Therese was selected. But before she could go, she fell ill, and at the age of 24, she died without stepping out. It looks like Therese's hopes of being a missionary had come to nothing. And yet, on her deathbed, she said, God has granted me all my desires. And the church, in fact, recognizes that she was a missionary. Now, how did she do her part in the Lord's fields? Through her prayers, through her love. She was extremely loving, even to people who were very mean to her. Through her suffering, and through her many letters encouraging missionary priests. And of course, now that she's in heaven, her work continues. And the other harvester is Saint Francis Xavier. I'm sure you've all heard of him. In Goa, he evangelized in the streets, he took care of the sick, he taught catechism to the children. He used to ring a bell and walk in the streets, and all the children used to come out. And then later he got the parents also. He fought for the poor and the neglected people. In fact, he even spoke to the King John of Portugal about the slave trade, and he corrected him. He said, "You have no right to spread the Catholic faith while you take away all the country's riches. It upsets me to know that at the hour of your death, you may be ordered out of paradise." So he was bold in protecting the poor. He is remembered as a dutiful missionary in India and Sri Lanka and the East Indies and Japan, baptizing more than 40,000 converts. He has dined with head hunters. He has washed the sores of lepers in Venice. And in 1 month, he baptized 10,000 people. He had the gift of tongues. That means when he was speaking, people could hear him in their own language when he was preaching to them about Jesus. He worked many miracles, including raising people from the dead and calming storms. And finally, he died at the age of 46 years old in an island near China. But who knows how many more he has brought to God after his death. I personally know a young man who had been searching for the truth for some years. He was a Hindu, and he had a life-changing experience at St. Francis Xavier's grave in Goa. He is now an ardent Christian. So let's spend a little time responding to all that we have heard, to Jesus' call. Ask him, Lord, what are you calling me to do? How can I bring your love and good news to your suffering people? How can I help gather your harvest? What's my particular task? You could also ask yourself two questions. Those who are already serving God, do I sometimes feel this is my work and forget that I'm only a laborer? Do I sometimes look for payment, honor, thanks, likes on my to my forwards and thumbs ups? Or do I look for material rewards? Spend some time talking to the Lord about all this and ask Him for the grace and power to do His work as He wants. So, ready, pray, and go.